they miss
Where
out.
are you? Putting this out on Facebook, or where are you putting it that you're having as a reminder during the week? Because I actually forgot about it.
I will
You said
show
something.
you. Here it is. I did send an email, I think, telling everybody over the weekend where to find them. But so here.
Yeah.
So if we're on the new site, in your course locker, which is called My Courses, you'll find Nerd Buzz. On mine, it's in the second page because I'm starting to accumulate a lot of courses in here now, which is a good thing. So under Nerd Buzz, and what I tell people is just bookmark this URL right here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have to be logged in to access this, but then you'll see Bulletproof Bookkeeping webinars and more.
Yeah, but as a reminder, how are you reminding us? You said you sent an email, right?
Yeah, I'm just emailing people.
Perfect. I did not get to all my emails this weekend, so I probably got it, just didn't see it.
Gotcha.
But I just remembered on my own. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go click on the link to check.
Yeah, so like here's the last two, the valuation analytics, what you can do. So that's kind of timely that I'm now adding the course in. I'll probably go back into these and put the link over to sign up for the course now.
There you go.
So anyway, it's going to be included for 97 and up. I think I mentioned that. Now, let's talk about today's topic. Really, really exciting stuff. Prepaid expenses and amortization.
I will say I wasn't super excited, but I did see Excel in there, so I never like to miss that.
Yeah. Oh, did I promise Excel? All right. Well, I was going to.
Oh, you said there may be some Excel trips.
I was going to do it in Google Sheets, but I can do it in Excel. Since I said Excel, I'll do Excel. It all works the same. This is actually inspired by a recent one-on-one I had where the guy actually, and you may run into a client, like this someday. This guy, I think, leases equipment. So every time he, leases, he'll lease equipment and then he kind of rents it out. So every time he leases a new piece of equipment, he has to get insurance for it. And so he has lots of these insurance policies that he prepays, for like a 6-month period or whatever. And then he has to amortize them. And then sometimes he said he'll, for whatever reason, just stop using a piece of equipment. So he's able to freeze the policy and then just resume it when he needs to use the equipment again, right? So he has a very complex setup in terms of what we're going to go through. And of course, I'm going to do it in, simpler fashion today. But, so the main thing is when I have a lot of insurance policies, how do I do it? And he, had all these complicated spreadsheets he was creating. And I kind of looked at it and I said, all right, forgive me if I'm oversimplifying this, but I think I see a way to make this really simple. And because he showed me a copy of one of the bills from the insurance company. And it listed like 6 different policy numbers. And it had the start date. And it had the cost. Right. So that's essentially what I want to walk through is what I created for this guy. Because when we're done, he was like, yeah, you know what? It actually is pretty simple once you look at it that way. Right. Of course, that's kind of my superpower is being able to find very simple ways to do very complicated things. So here we go. So let's just say I'm going to just use kind of generic language. So we'll say policy number. Right. We'll just assume the use case of insurance, prepaid insurance. Okay, so we'll have the policy number, the start date, and we'll just call it the period, like number of months that the prepayment covers, right? Prepaid amount. Okay, and then we'll have the monthly amortization, all right? Let's widen these up. Okay. Like I said, I'll just use some generic stuff, obviously the actual policy numbers. It's important to list the policy numbers because you really want to be able to, first of all, you're going to save this worksheet and then we'll go into QuickBooks Online. The entry is really simple to record and memorize for these, but you want to make sure that you have kind of an audit trail talking about keeping things bulletproof so that it's very clear what you set up by policy number, and why, so that policy number is going to be the one unique thing that identifies each of the entries, right? So it's actually a really important piece of information to have there, right? So let's say today on November 20th, I set up all new policies, right? Like I said, we're just going to keep it kind of simple. And let's just knock this down to 4 policies because once you know how to do 2 or more, it's kind of the same. It's just more entries to do. Anybody, by the way, Lisa, can you tell me, do you know how I got the date on there so quickly since we're talking about Excel?
No.
Control and the comma, or not the comma, control and the semicolon key.
I'm taking a note.
Control semicolon, which is also the colon if you're pressing shift. Control
Right.
semicolon stamps today's date right off the clock.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay. And just to mix it up, let's say the first two policies are 6-month policies and the second two are 12-month. And let's just say this one we prepaid 1,000. Let's make it 1,200, just so it's sort of evenly divisible. 1,800, 2,400, 3,600. This one's like maybe the umbrella policy, right? Okay, so then we have a simple formula to write for the monthly amortization. And always important to keep in mind that the first month's amortization happens on the day you paid, because now we're paying for the first month, right? But we're going to book the whole thing when we pay it to prepaid, and then we're going to amortize, in this case, 1/6 of it right on the same day we paid, right? That often becomes it's a common mistake that gets made because we're not really thinking it through, and so we almost automatically book the first amortization a month later. And that means we have no expense for the current month, the month that we actually made the payment in, because usually when we're making the payment, the policy expired last month, and that's why we have to make the payment this month, because we're renewing, right? But obviously, if you're looking at this for a client or whatever, you want to just make sure you're clear on that, on what's the actual period. So in some cases, if we're saying the start date is November 20th, and that means this is the date on which we have the first month's actual expense, right, out of the prepaid. Right. And in some cases, I think with my client that actually did this for, we also put an end date in. Shouldn't really matter, but we could. In fact, I'll show you another cool formula. If I already have the period, and so I just want the end date to be a matter of 6 months after the start date. Pay attention here. Okay. Equals e-date.
No.
Okay. And then you point to the date that you're starting with, comma, and then you can point to the number of months. Oops, you have to be careful writing that formula because it wanted me to, it thought I was actually clicking to edit the formula. So it's the starting date, comma, and then I'll just use my right arrow key to point to the cell immediate to the right, which has the number of months. So now it gets me the end date, and I can just copy that down, right? So May 20th, and these are a year later. So of course they expire November 20th next year. Right? So that's a cool way to do it. If these were like 8-month policies, so I love writing formulas on stuff like this because it makes something like this that much more dynamic, right? Let's get these formatted as dates or proper numbers. Monthly amortization, simple formula again. I'm taking the prepaid amount divided by the number of months, right? I'm not going to get into like what my guy had where some of these policies were suspended. Obviously, then you have to go in and figure out when the policy is suspended, stop amortizing, and then pick it up with whatever number of months were remaining at the point that you resume, right? And if I had that to deal with, what I'd probably do is add 2 more columns in here for like a pause date and a resume date, right? Hopefully, you're not going to pause and resume any one policy more than once. If you do, somebody should just beat you, right? Nobody should ever do that. Anyway, so the total prepayment that we're going to be making today is going to be $9,000, and then the monthly total amortization is going to be $1,000, right? But we're going to do it by policy. So, any questions on this so far?
Nope, for me, I'm good.
Okay. So let me just save this real quick. I already have a book 1 saved. Something's weird. I don't like what it's doing here. More save options. That's what I want. Microsoft really tries hard to get me to use like OneDrive and all these things I don't really care to use. I'm just going to put it in here. Prepaid Amort. All right, and so once the recording of today's webinar goes up, I will, of course, include this file so you can download it.
Nice.
I don't understand why it's telling me the file is, oh, I know why. That was a little dumb. Okay, so I'm going to move this over to my other screen. I'm going to log into QuickBooks. And you can see how, I mean, once you do the work that we just did, that's why I love creating worksheets like that, because then the accounting part's actually really easy. It's all laid out for me here. Let me move this over while I kind of get into sample company that I want to get into. Go in there. All right. Okay, so this is a sample company that's actually set up in QuickBooks Online Advanced. Obviously, you don't need QuickBooks Online Advanced for, to do what we're doing today, but it's just, that's what I've been working in lately for a sample company, because I've been writing articles for Intuit about QuickBooks Online Advanced. So let's do this. First, I want to see if I have any money in the bank in this company. No, so let me just drop a deposit in real quick for opening balance equity. 19 opening amount. All right. Just so we have some money in the bank. Now, so the first thing we do is record the prepayment, right? So expense check, doesn't really matter. Okay, the pay will be some insurance company, right? So some insurance company. Okay, the category is going to be prepaid insurance, which of course is going to be an other current asset. The reason it's current is it's going to be expired within a year. That's the definition of current. Save and close. All right, the total for all the policies, 9,000. Okay, and then prepayment on policy. And we can split this. Again, if we're talking Bulletproof, we really should split it, right? Because then what I'll do is I'll put the policy number right here in the description. This way I have a nice clean audit trail. And that's really what it means to have Bulletproof books. That's why I keep stressing it's not just about documenting. Of course we should attach a copy of the bill to this transaction as well. But I'd say equally as important as that is the way that you record things, right? Because this way, if somebody comes in and says, well, why did you record all this money on the 20th for prepaid insurance, right? And I can go into the transaction here, and it's very clear. Well, we paid for these, we prepaid for these 4 policies, right? And I would even actually attach my worksheet, right? I'll just attach the worksheet and I'll attach a copy of the bill. This way, if I'm being audited or otherwise scrutinized about my bookkeeping work here, it's not just documentation. It's a very clean trail. You can very visually confirm here are the 4 policies, right? And this can be shown here because now we're going to do the amortization next. So the whole audit trail is here, exactly how we came up with the $9,000 payment. And when we're done recording the journal entries, it'll be clear as it ties to this exactly how we arrived at our monthly amortization amounts, right? So if there's any question as to whether or not our insurance expense number is accurate, we've got the trail put together so that we can easily, and that's kind of what I've been saying since day one, that I mean by Bulletproof, I can prove every number. I can prove that my insurance expense number is accurate based on the amortization schedule that I'm going to have that flows right from here back to the spreadsheet and back to the bill that shows the policies and the total, right?
I have a question on the spreadsheet, Seth. So we're using Excel right now and not Google Sheets. So if we attach this and we updated it in 3 months for whatever reason, felt like we need to make a change, maybe not on this one, but on some other Excel sheet that we would add to a journal entry or expense. Will it change in QuickBooks?
No, because that's just an attachment. So you would have to,
Okay.
you know, assuming you don't keep a record of the Excel file somewhere else, you would have to go into the transaction, download the Excel file, update it, delete the original attachment, reattach it, which brings up a good point, which is that I can just as easily take all of this, all the formulas, everything works exactly the same. Let's go over here. Let's go to sheets.new. I'm literally just going to copy and paste what I had on the Excel. Okay, it didn't keep my eDate formula. I'm going to rewrite that one because the first time I learned about eDate, it didn't appear to be in Google Sheets, but now it is. So eDate, that, comma, that. Copy that down. Just again, I like having it dynamic. So now I can say some insurance company, Amort, let's just date it in the file name 2019-1120. Yeah, I see that. All right. And then what I will do is I will just make this so that anyone with the link can view it. I know I'll be able to edit it. Copy. Sometimes what I like to do with something like this, just so it's not this big, long, ugly link, is let's go to bit.ly.com. And I'm just going to shorten the link. Right. So there's another golden nugget, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just shorten it. You can even try and customize it. Like I might do like 11/2019 Amort, right? And it took it. It's not something somebody else is going to use, so I can copy that. And then what I'm going to do is in the memo, I'm going to say, see schedule, see Amort schedule here, right? Because I can't attach the Google document per se, right? I can't use the actual attachments here because that's looking for an actual file. So I just link to it, right? And I'll just hit the save button here. It's just yelling at me because I haven't assigned a class, which is fine. Unfortunately, it doesn't render as a link, but I can easily copy and paste it, right?
That's great.
So I've just given myself the audit trail, and I always just test it and make sure it gets me to the right place. And now this I just created on the fly, so it's sitting in my documents folder in Google Drive, but I can move this anywhere I want, and that link is still going to work. The one catch on Bitly is you only get one shot at that link. So if for some reason I realized I made a mistake and I want it to point to a different document, no such luck. I would have to just create a different Bitly link, right? But instead of having that long, ugly share URL that Google Docs gives you, I like having it. And I like that I customize the name a little bit because now I can follow suit with this. Anytime I do another amortization schedule, I just kind of put the date in a similar format, -amort, and it should work. It's not likely anybody else is using Bitly for something like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I love paper trails. I love paper trails that are easy. Everything's quick at your fingertips. That's a beautiful tip.
It just saves time because just thinking a year from now, if somebody's scrutinizing this, you're not going to remember.
Exactly. Well, a year from now, next week.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, so we're going to save this. And now we're just going to do the memorized transactions, all right? So let's go to the recurring transactions list. So I'm in the gear icon, recurring transactions. And here's what we'll do, actually, because like I said, I need to do each of these starting today. So I'll just create today's entry, and then I will turn it into a recurring entry, right? So we're just going to do a journal entry for these. Okay, and then over here, the monthly amortization. Let me actually make these look more like numbers. There we go. So the first one's going to be 200. Right, so I just paste that into the debit and credit. It's going to be today's date. You know, you can click in any date field in QuickBooks Online and hit the letter T for today's date. So I'm just going to use this generic insurance expense account. Obviously, you should use something more specific that describes the type of insurance. And so the credit's coming out of prepaid. I'm reducing an asset with a credit, and I'm increasing the expense with a debit, right? And then what I can do is I can say policy 1, right? This should be the insurance company's name. And it's important, again, Bulletproof. I'm taking the time to put in all the information, right? The property is because I use this company to do the real estate property management example, which Lisa, you were one of the tenants.
Oh, yay!
You didn't know that?
No, no, that's right, you did. You did, you told me this one like a month or so ago, that's right.
Yeah, you were one of my tenants in my sample apartment.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm gonna save that. And then what we want to do is click here where it says make recurring, okay? And we'll just call this policy 1, right? Because you're never going to have a duplicated policy number. So this is a perfect way to name it, right? You might want to do like prepaid. So, because remember, you might have a lot of different recurring transactions that serve a lot of different purposes. So this way, if you sort them by name, all your prepaid recurring entries, will kind of come together. So prepaid policy 1, I like that way of doing it, right? We're going to schedule it. We don't need to do it in advance. It's going to be monthly on the 20th, right? And the start date is going to be next month because we just did today's. And then the end, we've already done 1 occurrence out of 6. So we're going to say end after 5 occurrences, right? We have 6 to do. We've just done 1. We've got 5 left. Okay. And then, so watch this. I'm going to hit save template. Yes. Okay, and then I'm gonna, just to save time, because I have to do 5 more of these, right? So let's go back to the journal entry. And then we're gonna copy it. Okay, and now we're gonna do the next policy, which is for 300. So I'm just gonna change the numbers.
Seth, is there a reason you couldn't just put this all in one journal entry?
Again, just clean audit trail.
Okay.
You could, but especially if you end up having to pause a policy.
Right, that would be a difference for sure.
Yeah. So it's sort of a sure thing to do each one separately, right?
Okay.
A little more work, but it just keeps everything clean. So if I need to change something about one of them, or let's say I cancel a policy, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I guess you would just cancel, you just remove that line item. But again, I have an audit trail that shows that I had this policy in place. It recurred for 3 months and then I canceled it, right? So it's really just tracking. But to answer your question succinctly, no, there's no reason. You could absolutely do it as one journal entry. I just like data. All right, so we're going to save that. And then we'll make this one recurring. Same deal, it's going to be policy 2. Prepaid. Probably could go into the recurring transactions and just duplicate that, but it's really kind of the same thing. So monthly on the 20th, policy 2, prepaid. And sorry, I'm like very OCD about my dashes and spaces. Because I also, again, see how they line up nicely? And I see, look what I did. I did it backwards this time, so I have to fix it to follow suit. So it's got to be prepaid policy 2. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this one because I like that one better. Then I'm going to edit the second one and then just change it. That's why I like to copy and paste these things a lot, because it helps me make sure that I'm following suit. It's just going to look a lot cleaner in this list. And again, that's another sort of element of what I mean when I talk about doing things in a way that's bulletproof. It's just so much easier to read the list of recurring transactions when I have a good, consistent naming convention and I apply it, right?
For fun, why don't we do the next one as copying the recurring transaction?
Yeah, just so people can see how to do that.
Yeah.
So I just say duplicate for policy 3. Okay.
The nice thing about this is everything's in there, the dates.
Yeah, and actually then you can use this to just produce one entry for today's, right?
Yes.
So monthly on the 20th after 5 occurrences. I forgot if I did the number of occurrences on the other one. I'll have to double check that. So this is going to be number 3, policy 3 is, oh, we lost our one other friend. He got bored.
Oh, it's just me and you now?
Yep, just the 2 of us.
Okay, well, we're going to have a good video here for people to watch.
That's right. All right, where was I? So policy 3, right? is for 200 again. So that's there. Just need to change that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Let me just double check. Each one of these should stop after 5. Yeah, see, I knew I'd missed this one. And then on policy 3, I need to actually use this one, right? So over here, I say use. It's not going to impact the next date. I just want this to record as of today, right?
You know, Seth, just looking at that you accidentally skipped that 5 days in advance, I think maybe as a best practice, it would be to copy the recurring journal entry.
Yeah, it's probably a better way.
And then use it just like we did, but then I think you're typing less, but it also prevents that error such as forgetting to put the number of days
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely faster because when you do it this way, most of the work is done for you. So let's do the last one the same way. We're going to duplicate this, right? This is going to become policy 4. These need to say 4 because you're right. This way, the recurrence is all done.
And then you just have to say use, and then you're good.
Yep. 300 for this one. And you always want to make sure you see this here when you're doing this, where it says this is a copy. I've done that before where I thought I copied it, and I actually had edited it.
Oops, we've all done that.
And then, yeah. And then I don't know what happened. I get really confused, and then I start crying. All right, so I think that's it. So save template and yes. And then always just review. By the way, also because we're so clean and consistent about how we named these, later on when I have a million other recurring transactions for totally unrelated things, I know all I have to do is put prepaid in the filter, and it's going to immediately filter my list down.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? You also have these actual filters that you can use. And because I had property set up to be a location in case it was for real estate. So anyway, that's kind of the deal here. And then I didn't use number 4, did I? Let's use it. And I don't have my link. I need my link back. All right, so we'll have to fix that. So because all these have, I think it was in journal 1, right? Let's go back to this one. What happened to my memo? Oh, it was in the prepaid.
Oh, right.
So, but we should put it in the journal entries too, right? So let's go back to the expense, right? So we see our amortization schedule. This is one of the reasons I love this, you know, the fact that it shows you the recent transactions like this. All right, and then we just copy the same memo in there, save and close. If I had done that initially, then it would have been captured in the template, right? Which I should do in the template as well. So just copying and pasting. See, if you get something like this, you do create a bit of extra work for yourself. But it's easy enough to fix. So, and by the way, now Courtney is with us. We lost a friend and gained a friend. All right, let's go to 2. Now I had to do it like 8 times because I had to do it for each of the recurring and for each of the actual journal entries from today. But then it'll be included going forward. Update for all. Kind of lost my place on that one. All right, now number 4. Oh, that's right, because when I do it on a transaction that was created from the template, then it's going to ask me if I want to update the template, which you can say update for all. It's fine. It's already just updating with what I already had done.
Yes.
All right, and so now everything should be there. If I go to journal entry 3, just as a random selection, there it is. And once again, I can just copy my link and get right back to my Google Sheets version of the amortization schedule. And that's basically it. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it, but I'll stick around to answer any questions. And for those of you who came in late, don't worry, the recording will be up and you'll be able to see everything we did. Sorry, Lisa, did you say something?
I just noticed another person just joined. But
yes, now we have Karen with us. So I don't know how long you guys were there for, but hopefully you caught most of it. If you didn't, catch the replay.
Yeah, I like the little nuggets that came along with this one. Perfect.
Yep, don't forget to tell all your friends. We lost Karen. She just quit. She was like, oh, they're done. I'm out. Didn't we want to say hello?
Here. It's
What?
Courtney. Hi.
Hey, Courtney, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very
Sorry
good.
I was late.
No problem.
I'll watch the recording. Looking
Beautiful.
forward to it.
It'll be up. Do you know where to get the recordings? I showed in the beginning.
Is it going to be a Nerd Buzz?
Yeah, it's going to be a Nerd Buzz.
Okay. I know how to get there. So.
Perfect. All right.
All right.
So we'll have another good session. I may postpone next week's because it's the day before Thanksgiving. And so I'm not really going to be in the mood to work. I usually keep it light, you know, because that's party night, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The night before Thanksgiving. It's funny, before I got sober, that was like the biggest drinking night all year, was the night before Thanksgiving. I remember where I grew up in New York, like the bars, there was a big town called Huntington on Long Island where I grew up, and the bars were packed in Huntington every year on the night before.
Wow. Sounds like a good time.
So this will be a little more quiet than it was in those days. It's going to be more like a Disney Plus night.
I was going to say Disney Plus.
That's how you know you're getting old. Go from the bars to Disney Plus.
It's all good.
Still a good time. Still a good time.
Absolutely. All right. And look out for the business valuation course. I think I'll have it done today, actually. I have one more appointment, and the videos are all uploaded. So I just need to clean some things up, and then I'll go live with the course. And it's included in 97 and up, and it's going to be $300 for everybody else. So, all right. I will talk to you all soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.